Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. In this video, we are going to talk about what is draft design time and what is draft runtime. So in our previous video, we have seen what is the overview of the draft handling. In case if you have missed that, kindly click on this I button, watch that video first and come back here for a better understanding. Okay, so let's get started. So these are our draft design time we have to define in our behavior definitions, and we have a runtime which is nothing but which will be taken care by the framework. Even if it is managed or unmanaged, we don't need to worry about these things. But better to know about this, what kind of the action, why do we need it, and can we call this from the EML. So we have to know about this. So let's start with design time. So first thing is draft behavior. So far we have created a simple behavior definition with an business object. So in order to enable for this business object, in order to enable the draft functionalities, we have to use this syntax called with draft. Okay, so it will be defined on the top of the behavior definition, so which means it will be applicable to complete BO structure. Okay, as I mentioned earlier, this will be handled by the draft handling, handled by the framework, even if it is unmanaged. And one main thing is, let's say if we have some EMLs in our actions, validation, determinations, right, we would be using this percentage key to access the key of the business object instance, right? So it has to be replaced with percentage TKY, which is called transactional key, in order to align with the draft handling functionalities. Okay. So next thing, we have to define the database tables for the draft. Okay. So we have seen our previous video. Whatever the user changes, those informations will be stored in the different database tables, right? Here it's going to be our own database tables for the draft handling. Okay, so it will not edit or change anything to the active database tables. Okay, so here how do you define it? So we have a persistent table, right? So likewise, after this you can define the draft table with the same name, but underscore D is the recommended. So underscore D is nothing but it's a draft, mentioning the draft. Okay. So that is something called draft indicator. So whenever we use EML, so we can use this draft indicator. So based on switching on and off, you can read the draft data or you can read the active data. Okay. So once we define this, we don't need to create this database tables. Basically, when you do a quick fix, the draft database tables will be created automatically. We derive the columns from the CDS views mentioned underlying of this behavior definition. Okay, but additional some admin columns will be added, to, which is for framework to identify the draft things. Okay. Let's say if you have modified something in the original database tables, okay, or you have added a couple of columns, then you have to adjust or regenerate this draft database tables in the behavior definitions. Otherwise, it will raise a error. Okay. Lastly, as we are dealing with changing everything in the draft database tables, right? So it will not hamper the performance to the application. Why? Because we have the own database tables, or whatever we do updates updates with every milliseconds or something, then it will goes to the only the draft database table. No active database tables will be fetched or updated in the draft handling. Okay, so for the performance we don't need to worry about here. All right. So total E tag. So total E tag will be a very important thing here, because when it will require is trying to save the draft data, what will happen? It will simply uh, push the data from the draft data to the active database tables, right? So meantime, okay, let's say the active database table records has been changed by someone else, so we doesn't know. Then that in that time, if we want to make sure that that does not no one change the particular record whatever you are editing, then uh, then we have to enable the E tag for those, right? So here the E tag is called total E tag. Like E tag, we just define a unique field for the total e-tag. Okay, so in case if you're not aware of e-tag, just click on this I button and watch that video. Okay, second thing is you should define directly after the lock master. So here there is a lock master, right? After that, your total e-tag definition should be there. Otherwise, not it will not allow actually. Okay. So the e-tag field must be annotated in the base areas views with this annotation. The annotation is at semantics dot system date time dot loss changed at true, because if we do this, what is the benefit is this field will get updated automatically by the framework. Okay, and there is a recommendation actually. The total e-tag field should not be the same as the e-tag master field. Okay, so we have a e-tag master also. This is separate e-tag concepts. It's not with the draft handling. It's over the behavior definition. But for the draft handling, we need to have a unique field. Okay, other than the whatever we have defined for the e-tag master field. All right. Okay, and this e-tag will be only helpful for the edit draft instance. So what is edit drafts and all, we will be seeing it in the upcoming slides. Okay. Next is draft action. So what is draft actions? Okay. So these whatever you see, this whatever we have defined, right, in the behavior definition. Draft action, edit, activate, resume, discard, prepare. So everything should be defined for the root business object. We don't need to define this action in all the business object. By default, framework will be taken care of for all the child entities. All right. So let's see what are the each action is about. So first we'll edit action, which simply copy the active instance to the draft instance. Okay. So when user click on the edit button, what basically the scenario will happen is it will try to fetch the record from the active database table to the draft database. So first simply it will store in the draft. Okay. After that, whatever we edit, that will get that changes modification will happen to the draft record. Okay. Then activate action is little opposite to the edit action. So here what would happen is once we done with editing, drafting and everything, then user will click on the save button. Then what will happen? The activate action will get triggered where your draft instance record, whatever you have edited, what is the final version, okay, that will be copied back to the active instances, replacing the existing version. All right. And there is something called activate optimize. This is optional. You can do it if your application it's affected by performance issues or something. So why the performance is occurring is in the activate action is like there will be a number of determination and validation execution will happen. So if that happens, so what will if the number of execution is increases, then of course the runtime of the application will get increased. So that's why it's recommended to use this activate optimized, so that based on certain guidelines, this determination validations will not get executed repeatedly. Okay. So discard action. Okay. So it's just simply whatever you are editing and you want to delete the draft data, you can do this discard action. You can execute this discard action basically. So prepare action is something which will be triggered automatically. Okay. So when it will get triggered, when before the activate. So here there is activate, right? So this activate will get triggered when we finalize our draft version and we want to convert it to the active instance. Okay. So in that case, before activate gets triggered, okay, the prepare action will get executed. In this, whatever the determination validation we want to execute before the original version is stored, so we can define it in the prepare action. So it's resume action. So resume action is nothing. So whenever you click on this edit, okay, edit button, okay, whenever you do this edit action, what would happen? The active instance will be copied to the draft instance, right? So at the same time, you will have a lock will be enabled for the original instance. Okay. Why? Because the user one is editing the original record. Sorry, he is editing the draft version of the original record. So the original record should not be edited by someone else. Okay, that's why the some durable lock will have, that's we call it exclusive lock. When this lock will be released by two things. One is when you activate the whatever the version you are editing. Otherwise, if you leave that and after some time this lock will get expired. Tomorrow you come and you just trying to editing the same instance which was edited yesterday, and this resume action will get triggered and the same exclusive lock will be done. Okay, and your and user can keeps on editing afterwards, right? And finally, it's if you want to enable your business application, of course, your association also needs to be enabled for the draft. Otherwise, we will get lot of inconsistencies. So to avoid this, you have to use this with the draft. Okay, in your behavior definitions, wherever your associations are there. Okay, let's talk about what is draft runtime. The first thing is create draft data. So how do we how we are going to create a draft data? Right? So there are two ways you can do it. Either you can do it via EML or you can do it from the UI. So let's see what would happen like if we are trying from the UI first. So so let's say we are in a non-draft mode, okay, in a normal applications without draft handling. What would happen? The user will try to create click on the create button, okay, then immediately. So when you try to click on the create button, so what would happen? You need to enter the basic information or basic some columns, right? Whatever the columns are required to create. Then once you click on the create button or save button, then only the request will be goes to the backend. Okay. So till that, whatever you enter, that will be there in the UI. Okay. So then like when after clicking on this create button, then request will goes to the backend, and the data will be stored in the active database tables. Okay, that is normal create operation. Okay, so how do we do the replicate the same thing in the draft mode? Okay, so that is same thing. Okay, when we try user tries to click on the create button itself, we trigger the request to the backend. Okay, so when that happens, you wouldn't enter any of the columns, right? So in that case, we just store the non-primary key fields. Okay, non-key fields will be as a empty in the draft database tables instead of active database tables. So which means you started drafting from the the started drafting the instance. So yeah, when we try to create it, so it will be always the empty. So can we do it with the EML? Yes, of course we can do it. Usually we try to create it using the EML. This is the syntax. So just create from, and you give the provided values, what are the values are required, right? So there is something called percentage is draft. This is the indicator which refers, which tells the framework whether it should goes to the draft database tables or active database tables. Okay, if it is switched on, then it will goes to the draft database tables. All right. Okay, so this let's see the edit draft action. So previously we have seen create draft data, which means it's just a create operation. It's not an action. Just there is a difference between this operations and action. So let's see how it will be triggered in the case of UI. So in the UI, user try to click on the edit button. So what would happen when user try to click on the edit button? A request will be sent back to the server. Then where it just simply in the active data, because in the active database table only we have the certain records, like whatever the record you want to edit. Okay, so that records, those all the columns information, everything will be copied to the draft database tables. Okay. Parallelly, the framework will do the exclusive lock for the active data. Why this is required? Because you are editing, you are making a draft version of this original record. But in this case, if someone, trying to edit or trying to change the original record, then you wouldn't know the latest version. Correct. So to avoid this, the exclusive lock will be set in the backend. Okay, finally we have a question. So this lock has been set on the active data. So what will happen to this lock, right? So it will get expired or it will get released. Okay, so finally is the draft version. Okay, and he wants to push it to the active data. Okay, he want to replace the active data. So in that case, the draft is activated. Okay, and then the lock will get released, or else the draft will be still exits. Okay, then after certain period of time, okay, it will get by default released by the system. Okay, these are the two things would happen to this exclusive lock on the active data. Okay. So can we edit it via the EML? Of course we can do it. So this is the syntax for it. So that one thing we need to note is, because this is a draft action, it's an action, so we have to use this statement execute. After that, which action name you are going to place, you can place it. So here in this case, it's a edit, right? And there is a one important field here. You have to pause it while if you are calling from the EML. So when the UI, the framework will be taken care of it. But if you are trying to access via the EML, you have to pause this preserve changes parameter. Okay, so keep this as true. So why we need this preserve changes? So it will try to check whether the active data has any draft instance or not. Okay, if it has a draft instance, then basically what would do, it will just simply reject your edit request, because it don't want to overwrite the already the existing data. So if in case if it is false, then it will overwrite the existing draft data by someone else, which was done by someone else. Okay, activate draft action. Again, it's an action. So basically, so far we have seen we create the draft data, right, and all the data will be stored in the draft database tables. Likewise, we are editing it, still your latest version drafting, right, that will be stored in the draft database tables, right? So let's say the drafting is done and I got a final version of my particular instance. I want to store it to my active database tables. So in that case, we can go with this active data activate draft action. So in the UI, you just simply has to click on the save button, nothing else. So which will trigger a request to the backend, and where simply your draft data, whatever your latest version having, which will be copied back to the active data. Okay. So this active data will be there in the transaction buffer only. It will not immediately will be stored in the active database tables. So because whenever we do a commit, or whenever the request goes to the save phase, then only this will be permanently stored in the active database tables. Okay. Then after which, okay, you want to verify that this data is consistent or not, right? So that this activate draft action will be triggering the prepare action. Okay, this prepare action is simply saying it will just having some certain validation and determination that will get executed for this new data that you are going to store. Okay, so once that is done, then finally the draft data, whatever we had a data here, right, that is absolute, right? So it will get deleted automatically by the framework. Okay. So this is also we can trigger it from EML. So this is the same syntax like edit. You have to use the activate. That's it, and whichever the field, you just need to pass the key field. Okay. Then discard draft action is so simple. Let's say you are editing something and you don't want that data. I mean, you don't want, since you don't like the data, you want to delete that, right? So in that case, you just simply click on this discard button in the UI, which will trigger to the backend, and with that, your existing draft data record will get deleted, and also the release, right? So because when we are in the edit mode, your exclusive lock will be set in the active data, so that will get also released. Okay, so other than it won't do nothing, you just simply delete the draft data. Okay, and yeah, via email, yeah, you can simply call this execute discard action, then your record will get deleted from the draft table. Okay, the prepare draft action is triggered automatically in the edit phase, right? In the edit action, we have already seen, right? It will just simply, sorry, not in the edit, activate, sorry. So in the activate draft actions, where it is getting the prepare action will get triggered, right? So this is what will happen inside the prepare draft action. So when it will happen, when you click on the save, right, it will just trigger the activate. This activate will get triggered, it will trigger this prepare action. Okay, this prepare action will have two things. One is validation and determinations. Whatever you define in the behavior definition, that will get executed. Okay, so this will make your active data as a consistent before storing into the active database table. So, and one important thing is you have to, I mean, this can be executable only on the draft instances. You cannot use the active instance. So as we are handling the draft instances, this validation determinations will be act only on the draft instances. All right. So yeah, you can simply like activate and edit. You can simply execute this prepare via EML as well. The same syntax. So the last one, okay, is a resume draft action. So it's a little different than others. So the scenario for this resume is very rare actually. So why? So I have already mentioned about exclusive lock, right? So whenever you try to edit something, the exclusive lock will be set in the active data instance, correct? So let's say today you are editing something, okay, then exclusive lock will be present, correct, for the active data. So what would happen? Tomorrow you come back. This by the time your exclusive lock will get expired. You try to edit the same instance and tomorrow, then you will have a kind of a resume action will get triggered. What it will do? It will again try to set the exclusive lock for the active data. You can input whatever the values uh, like whatever he wants. I can be, yeah, this can also be triggered via EML. It's the same syntax, like you can use this execute and you can use this action name called the resume. Just need to pass the key field, that's it. Okay, so this is about draft runtime. So we have seen what is draft design time and draft runtime. In the design time, you have to just do the definition of a draft related things in the behavior definition. That's it. And in the runtime, you have I hope you have understood how this each actions is working and in the backend. Okay, and just I want to highlight again this. Um, this whatever we have seen the runtime actions, everything will be handled by the framework only, even if it is unmanaged. So for managed and unmanaged behavior definitions, we don't need to write any logic for handling this action. Then you might have a question, then why do I need to know about this all information? So this will be really helpful if you are still in the ECC systems or earlier S4 HANA systems where you don't have a wrap. So it's good to know about what does what. Okay, even the framework handles everything. So that's it for today. Just give thumbs up if you like the video and subscribe for more videos. Thank you for watching. Have a great day.